started, the first thing we'd like to do is call to order this special meeting of the Henderson County Board of Education on March 23rd, 2020. Would like to remind everybody that we're doing things a little bit different. Thank you, Mr. Johnson, for getting all this stuff pulled together. We are acknowledging and working based upon the social distancing. However, we are live streaming this. Is that correct? And we have Tracy Williams that's attending on the video conference. So if anybody doesn't have any questions, we'll get us started. The second item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from our prior meetings. So we've all received the minutes, had a chance to review them. Is there any questions? Entertain a motion that we accept the minutes as presented, please. Motion by Mr. Smith.
Second.
Second by Mr. Haynes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Votes unanimous. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is to look at the BG 19068 for the new Jefferson Elementary School project. And Morgana, you're going to handle that?
Sure, I'll be glad to speak to that. I'm just, I think all of your documents are in the board packet, and we even were able to put 3C in there today. It was today. So this request is approval for commissioning the HVAC and lighting for Jefferson Elementary School. Commissioning is something that KDE requires us to do. At Spotsville, we requested that approval later in the process, and that just means that a third party comes in behind the HVAC and the lighting companies that install it to check to make sure that it is done correctly. So it is something that is required from KDE, and in your board packet are the proposals that we've received and would request your approval for that item.
Okay, we had a chance to review the information. You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Entertain a motion that we accept approval of the proposal for commissioning of the HVAC at the Jefferson Elementary School, please.
I'll make that motion, Mike.
Motion by Ms. Williams.
Second.
Second by Mr. Haynes. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Votes unanimous.
So item B on the agenda is very similar to the commissioning. This is approval for special inspections for Jefferson, and that information was attached in your board packet as well. So just requesting that the board approve the proposals for special inspections.
Okay, we have a motion or a recommendation from the superintendent to approve proposals for these special inspections at Jefferson Elementary School. Entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Ms. Williams to accept it.
Second.
Second by Mr. Smith. Wesley. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion's unanimous. Next item.
Review and approval or rejection of the alternate bids. And in your board packet, you actually had the same response, but one document was uploaded from Hafer and one was uploaded from Codell, just in two different formats. This was the piece that wasn't completed last Monday, and it took Codell a little bit longer to go through and look at which alternate bids did we want to agree to go ahead and do and which ones do we not. So in alternate bid 1, we chose to reject that and not have a separation curtain installed. They will install the hardware, but at a later date, the school district could come back and install that. So we chose to save that money at this time. We would request alternate bid 2 be rejected. Okay, now this is where it's kind of like backwards, meaning we're approving the base bid, which was to put bulkheads in the library, and we're rejecting for them not to do it. There's minuses in those columns. We don't want them just to do a flat ceiling like this. We do want the bulkheads in the media center. On the canopy, we want it obviously just like it is. Alternate 4, we chose to reject it. Again, if we were to accept this, this means they would not complete all of the parking that's up there on Elvis Street. So the stadium, where the football stadium is, and then when we saw the diagrams, there was extra parking up there by the stadium. And we talked about how we needed that for overflow, how it would help South Middle School. If we chose to take that out, then we would get the credit that was listed in that column. And we felt like, or I would recommend to the board, that we want to keep that parking lot at this point and put it in the construction package at this time. On bid number 5, that one is as is. On the security, we rejected that. That was an alternate bid, which we didn't, we already have a pretty advanced security camera system in the Henderson County Schools, and so we didn't need the pieces and the controls that they added on. We felt that it was very adequate the way the base bid was. On moisture mitigation, actually Codell recommended that we reject that bid. Moisture mitigation can be used and added at any time through the process, but you only need it if you need it. So don't pay for it up front if you don't need it. HVAC controls, we rejected that one, and then there wasn't anything for alternate bid number 9 and number 10. So I would recommend to the board, based on both of the documents that you have in there, one from Codell and one from Hafer, they both say the same thing, just in a couple different formats, a recommendation. And we can make, I think, one motion to accept the recommendations. We don't have to do each bid individually.
Okay, we've heard the superintendent's recommendation, the explanation for the rejects, as well as the alternate bids and the acceptance of the original bids and the original package. Is there any questions or comments with regards to her explanation? Okay, so I'd entertain a motion that we accept the superintendent's recommendation for the acceptance and rejection of the various bids that have been presented in the package.
Make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Haynes, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Smith. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So votes unanimous. Thank you.
On 3D, Jefferson Elementary bid package number 12, you approved that bid package last Monday when Codell notified Otis Elevator to move forward in securing bonds and getting a contract ready for them. They wanted to start to back out and said that at this point they could not honor with 100% performance and payment bond. And even though they had the lowest bid at this point, John Hagan's recommendation, he said it will not hold the project up because it is not something that is what you don't start with the elevator. He would suggest, and we agree, after we talk with them and Marcus at KDE, that the board would take action tonight for us to rebid that package.
So it's your recommendation that we reject the Otis elevator bid, or just eliminate it from the package and then rebid it later?
Eliminate it and approve Codell to solicit new bids. Yes.
Heard the superintendent's recommendation. Questions? Entertain a motion. We accept this recommendation of the superintendent on the bid package, excluding the Otis elevator bid.
I'll make that motion, Mike.
Well, thank you, Ms. Williams. Appreciate that so much. Have a motion by Tracy Williams,
Second.
second by Mr. Haynes. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. Votes unanimous.
So item 3E is the last one for Jefferson Elementary School. The BG1 has now been completely aligned with all of the alternate bids inserted in there. It aligns with the BG1 that you all looked at last Monday, but this form is in the Hvac form, which is the one required by Kentucky Department of Education. So I would request your approval tonight of the official Hvac BG1.
Okay, superintendent's recommendation is to approve the BG1 for the Jefferson Elementary project as it's presented so that we can get it to KDE. So I'd entertain a motion to accept that. Come on, Tracy.
I thought Wes was gonna do it. I'll make that motion.
Well, thank you, Tracy. I have a motion from Ms. Williams,
Second.
second by Mr. Smith. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please. Aye. Votes unanimous. The next item on the agenda would be review Senate Bill 177 and adopt a resolution for declaration of authority of COVID-19 response. So,
Sure, I can talk to that one.
thank you.
Senate Bill 177 was in your board packet for review, and just briefly, it was passed in both the Senate and in the House, and it sits on the governor's desk for signature. In the governor's afternoon report that he gives every afternoon, this afternoon, that question was directly asked to him. Has he seen the bill? Has he signed it? And does he intend to sign it? And he said he has seen it. He has not signed it, he's pretty sure. But yes, he does intend to sign it because our schools need the help that's in here. So the big picture items that this bill addresses are our non-traditional instruction days. It addresses 1,062 hours. That's the number of student hours we need every school year. It addresses emergency days. It addresses providing students lunch, our state testing, flexibility to IDEA B, certified evaluation plan, EHOs for military, non-renewals, and the SAR report. And the SAR report is the report that we turn in that calculates in a short term all of our funding forms. So that's what Senate Bill 177 does. It provides a lot of flexibility. Now, that flexibility is truly needed. When we had a conference call with the governor on Friday, he asked us to close our schools till the 20th, April 20th, and 172 districts did that, but he also made sure we make sure we have things prepared until May 1st. And we've done that. We're in good shape with those things in Henderson County schools. But a lot of these items that we're encountering fall outside of our board policy. And so the resolution that I attached in your board packet is a resolution that several superintendents are asking their board to consider. And it just says that I would keep you informed. Obviously, I would keep you all informed, but it would allow me as superintendent to use any of this new language to run our school district. I'll give you a perfect example. March 31st, April 1st. It's really, in the board policy, it's April 1st, but we tell our principals March 31st. All classified evaluations have to be finished. Okay, well, we have not been in school. We've not been in contact with our staff. And we're scrambling a little bit. We need an extension. This offers an extension, but rather than certified. Thank you. That is true. It just addresses certified. But that's just an example of how there's a board policy and we might need a little bit of help. So I'm requesting the board's consideration to adopt the resolution that is attached in there, and I'm open to discussion about that.
Obviously, your recommendation is to accept this resolution, so we do have the flexibility to utilize the Senate Bill 177 as we see fit in the district, depending upon what variables may present itself with the flexibility to make sure that we're in compliance with Department of Education recommendations as well as regulations. So I would entertain a motion that we,
I
do
have
we need to, yeah,
I have
go
a
ahead.
question.
I'm
So,
there.
were any members of the KEA ESP local ask about the extension of the, like, were they asked, is May 15th okay with the classified staff?
We have not at this point asked any of our staff at all.
Okay.
We have talked with principals and district leadership, looking at what their recommendation would be. We put May 15th out there, but because it's like the day before the last day of kids, so it was the farthest extension that we could.
And just for purposes of clarification for people that aren't here, the resolution that you're discussing, Senate Bill 177, is not the resolution that includes the May 15th date. The May 15th date's in the classified resolution, which is separate.
Correct.
So Senate Bill 177, under this resolution, addresses certified evaluation that grants the district the leeway to modify the certified evaluation process. So just to avoid any confusion that the May 15th deadline isn't really binding on the certified part of it, that's in the classified resolution, which is separate.
Which is item 5.
Right.
How you doing there, Kirk?
Oh, I'm doing good.
Okay.
I'm doing good. Beth and I had conversation this afternoon.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure that we kept the classified and the certified staff separate when we did it. And there's a section 10, I think it is, in 177 that addresses notification of certified staff. They could be notified by mail or email, or it gives several options.
And I'm sure you're going to do that
We will want that flexibility, I'm sure, yes.
as we move forward throughout all of this unknown with regards to the COVID-19
Correct.
and this funny school year.
Correct. Yeah.
So, do we want to read this resolution into the minutes or just accept it as it's presented? Ms. Byrd?
I'm not sure how clear it is on the video transmission for the live streaming, if it would be beneficial for, I don't know what they can see on their screen at home, if they can see it to read it themselves. If not, I'll be happy to read it.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
I'll go ahead and read it, okay. So whereas the Henderson County Board of Education is committed and resolute to the progress of public education in Henderson County, and whereas the Kentucky General Assembly passed legislation in the 2020 session under SB 177 declaring an emergency in the Commonwealth of Kentucky due to the novel coronavirus public health crisis, which is having an immediate and significant impact on public schools and providing emergency relief to all public schools. And whereas it is necessary for the Henderson County schools to respond in support of our community amidst the current public health crisis caused by COVID-19. Now, therefore, it is hereby resolved and ordered by the Henderson County Board of Education in response to the above described state of emergency. 1, the provisions outlined in SB 177 shall be adopted and implemented to the extent necessary to facilitate the administration of educational services and the operations of Henderson County schools. Number 2, the superintendent of Henderson County Schools shall be authorized to act on the board's behalf in implementing any necessary provisions set forth in SB 177 and any corresponding regulations or administrative orders. And then it's just adopted by the board on, and we'll insert the date.
Okay, you've heard the resolution as it's been read, and it gives, again, the flexibility of the superintendent to operate the school system based upon the various regulations that may need to be altered throughout this year. So I'd entertain a motion that we accept the resolution as read.
I make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Haynes,
Second.
second by Ms. Williams. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. Vote unanimous. Thank you.
Also, under this action item is the resolution regarding meeting protocols. And, one of the main purposes we have with these resolutions is just to document in our minutes the authority that the board is, the response of the board in this current emergency situation, just so that if questions arise, we can go back and it's documented, it's clear in the meeting minutes, so that there's no question or confusion as to what we're doing. And Senate Bill 177 gives leeway to the district in making a lot of decisions. But the other resolution that was recommended to us by KSBA as a responsive action to the COVID-19 crisis.
Go ahead. We've got a couple of folks up.
Oh, okay. Is a resolution regarding the current meeting protocols. This is a longer resolution. I'm not sure if you want me to read it all in. I'll be happy to. But the purpose of it is to clarify an exception to the Open Meetings Act. Currently, the way the Open Meetings Act is written, in all of our notices, we're required to specify the location of the meeting for public observation. And in light of the governor's executive order declaring a state of an emergency and the directives from the Finance and Administration Cabinet, and then an Attorney General opinion that came down last week, there has been a determination that in this the emergency climate that we're in, that's not feasible to protect the health and safety of the general public and to encourage social distancing. So they've made the determination that during this specific time period that we're under, that the notice for a specific meeting location, a physical location, be waived, and that instead we can provide notice where the public can observe the meetings online. So that's the purpose of this resolution, is just to document that during the current emergency crisis situation, while the state of emergency is in effect, that the board can meet exclusively by video teleconferencing. All the statutory requirements for notices will be complied with. We just simply won't have a specific meeting location for the public to attend. That they will be, we'll stream it online so they can observe.
Thank you. Appreciate that clarification. It is a lengthy resolution.
And my thought is maybe we could post it on the website for anyone that wanted to read it.
Makes sense. I'd just soon not have to read that long rascal, and I'm sure Beth doesn't want to either. But we've all had a chance to review it. We've read it. And again, from a clarification standpoint, basically so that we are not in violation of the open meetings law, and that we give folks all the opportunity available, considering the social distancing and the welfare of people involved in the meetings, as well as the public not being exposed.
There is one change from the draft that was circulated, and when Kurt and I talked this afternoon, he made a good point in clarity of language. And so on page 2 in item number 2, where it says board members shall avoid attending board meetings in person and shall attend via video teleconferencing to the extent practical when necessitated by current circumstances. Instead of saying shall, we're going to change the word shall to may.
Correct.
The intent's the same, is that if circumstances warrant, we'll call a video teleconference. But just to avoid any confusion with shall versus may, we're going to change it and the language will say may.
You don't want to get arrested for coming to this meeting, right?
No, well, I know that y'all have been through this before, but let's say COVID-19, no vaccination, and is not here. Shall means that we would have to meet virtually, and I'm
Correct.
thinking about our candidates for superintendent. So
Good
it
point.
might be easier to facilitate, if we could all be in this big room together.
I don't disagree with
Okay.
you. I agree with you wholeheartedly. It makes better sense. So appreciate that clarification. So again, we've had a chance to look at the resolution. I would entertain a motion that we accept the resolution as presented, unless there's other clarifications or questions.
I'd make that motion with the change from shall to may.
Have a motion by Mr. Haynes to accept the resolution with the change in the wording in item 2.
Second.
Second by Mr. Smith. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Votes unanimous. Next item on the agenda is superintendent search timeline and setting a date for the screening committee meeting. And Beth, you clarified that as well as where? I missed that.
That's okay.
Oh,
Number
approval of the
5.
adjustment certified and classified evaluations for the 219-220 school year. Sorry.
That's okay. We already briefly talked about that one. And that's just requesting the extension of deadlines at this point and using some of the flexibility that Senate Bill 177 requests. And so, Ms. Bird, if you think we need to read that one.
You know, we can, the preface, all the whereases are pretty much the same that
Correct.
we previously read. So just for clarification, I'll be happy to just read what is being ordered.
Okay.
And there is one clarification in this one as well, that in paragraph number 2, the draft that you had referred to certified and classified staff. Kurt made a good point, since we are only addressing classified in this resolution. We're removing the word certified from that. I simply copied statutory language. We're just pulling that word. It doesn't change anything, just makes it more clear.
Good deal.
So it is hereby resolved and ordered by the Henderson County Board of Education in response to the above state of emergency that for the 2019-2020 school year, the April 1 deadline for completion of classified employee evaluations is hereby extended to March 15th. May 15th, I'm sorry. In keeping with the legislative intent set forth in Senate Bill 177 regarding written notices required to be provided to classified school district employees, the administration is encouraged to adopt an alternative means of conducting post-evaluation conferences so as to limit in-person contact and promote social distancing, including but not limited to conducting conferences by telephone or video conferencing and delivery of evaluations via U.S. mail or electronic transmission.
So, the resolution as presented, entertain a motion to accept it.
I'll make that motion.
Motion
as
by Mr.
amended.
Haynes, second by Ms. Williams. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. Votes unanimous. Now we're down to the timeline. Go ahead, Beth.
Okay. So tonight's meeting was originally scheduled to be a joint meeting of the board and the screening committee. After some discussions last week regarding, things were evolving pretty quickly as to how we were going to handle video teleconferencing, whether meetings were going to be allowed, and one of the issues we were discussing was the number of people that were involved and their comfort levels and ability to participate either in person or via video conference. When I spoke with Quinn Sutton, he did indicate that several of the districts that around the state that are conducting superintendent searches had pushed back some of their initial meetings. They pushed back their timeline a little bit just because we were so new in the state of emergency and things were changing on a daily basis, that the idea was to get some more information as to where we were going and where we would be allowed to go, and then make some decisions, as to how we move forward. One of the logistical issues that we have is, getting everybody together to do that initial meeting and share the documentation. We can do that. We can work that out so that information is delivered to people that cannot attend in person. I know Quinn's preference is that initial meeting be an in-person meeting, and so that there can be open discussions with the search committee members, just to kind of get to know each other and go over the protocol and the expectations and where we're going and how they're going to move throughout the process. As I think I shared with you, he has some limitations and some issues related to his family members that are making him be especially cautious in traveling, but he did want me to assure the board that he would in no way hold up the process. So the issue really is, we moved today's meeting how far back? Do we want to push it back a week, 2 weeks? Kind of what are the board's thoughts at this point as to, how they want to move forward in the search process?
So Tracy's the elected or the selected board member. I'd like to hear your thoughts, Tracy.
I definitely, I don't mind this video conferencing. I know Clint said that his initial meeting would like to be everybody in person. I think at this point it's going to be a little difficult to do that. So I think I've prayed a lot about the fact that I would like for this to be over tomorrow, but I think if we push it out, I'm not going to get a new superintendent named until sometime in June. I mean, I'm okay with that. I guess maybe we might need to talk to Anna about that as well.
Let me add a comment if I could. Do you mind, Tracy? Okay. Originally, when we set the timeline, we wanted to, based on the timeline, May 18th, announce a new superintendent. That was to give some period of transition from who the new superintendent would be, and Margana, who obviously is going to end at the end of June. We also built in there from the 23rd to the April 14th because we had anticipated a week of spring break where it'd be hard for people to get together. I'm not so sure that we don't need to consider moving the naming of the superintendent to maybe the 1st of June or May 31st. That would still leave a month of transition time, and then in our thoughts of naming a superintendent, I'm sure that we could convince Margana to stick around a little while. I know I didn't entertain that thought to you prior.
That's where I was going.
Yeah, I kind of gathered that, Tracy, but everything she said up to this point is that she would be more than willing to help in the transition time. And without knowing Mr. Sutton's situation, and then when you consider the number of people on this screening committee, all of them may not have availability for video conferencing. We're at a situation that's a lot unknown right now.
I was going to say we wanted to. Part of our discussion was we wanted to announce early so that the new superintendent and Margana could work together, but it's going to be a completely different end of the school year.
Yep.
Our graduation is postponed, so that announcing early might put additional stress on Margana and the staff that they don't really need.
Well, again, the point I'm going to make is whenever we do announce it, as Margana has said, she's willing to work with whoever the new superintendent is in a transition time frame. I think our objective is to understand what the screening committee's limitations are now, and I would ask that maybe Margana and the administration kind of question all the members and see what they're comfortable with, what their capabilities are, and then with Mr. Sutton come together with a recommendation of what may be the best method, and pushing out the timeline, because again, we presented a timeline. We left it up, Tracy, maybe with the committee to look at seeing what may be some times to meet, the days to meet but I think all of this is going to have to change now with what we were looking at May 18th. So,
and one of the things that is a very real possibility is that even if we discuss at this point a preference of allowing those to meet in person that want to meet in person, and then those that can't to participate by video conference, we could be faced with a situation a week from now where in-person meetings are not an option.
Correct.
So, that's kind of where Quinn was and I was, well, we both were in the discussion, is that from day to day, this thing changes. So it's just, do we go ahead and set the initial meeting is with the screening committee and the board, and then the remaining meetings are just the screening committee. I think we had 3 meetings set for them.
Well, even that initial meeting was just more of a
It's just a charge,
complimentary
right?
get together, and here we are,
Yeah,
and then
the
they
board has to give
start
them-
their business.
Right.
So
The board has to give them their charge.
yeah,
So perhaps if we get I reached out to members of the screening committee, and the majority of them did respond that they did have access, that they could participate via video conference. I think I had one that did not respond. So, as far as that capability, I think we're in pretty good shape if we need to go to that method. So if the board can kind of give us an idea when they want us to set the initial meeting, we can work with them to arrange the following meetings.
So Beth, I kind of would catch parts of what you were saying. The rest of the screening committee is okay if we go ahead and set the first initial meeting. Is that what you said?
Well, all I asked was if they had the ability to participate via video teleconference. Did they have access to a computer that had a camera and internet access, so that if that became a necessity, they could do that? If not, we could obviously provide them with a Chromebook to use, so that they could, if they did not have one on their own, that they could, they could log in and participate. It was just, did someone live in an area that they simply couldn't connect to the internet, that might be a hardship? And so, as of right now, I don't think anyone does.
Okay. Well, connecting, and I was a little nervous about doing this, but it's probably been the easiest thing I've done in the last couple of weeks. And mine's not a Chromebook, I'm just on my regular computer, so it was fairly easy.
well, all right. Beth, Tracy, between you two, if you come up with a recommended date, then we'll try and set the meeting time. I would hate to say, dictate right now that, okay, it's the 23rd, let's have a meeting on the 30th. But I'm wide open to that.
Mike, I can't hear you.
I'm saying it'd be hard for us to sit here and say when the screening committee would get together, but we could set, say, okay, next Monday, which is the 30th. I mean, if that's a date that's available with everybody on the board, or next Tuesday, or whatever day other members of the board are willing, and however the other committee members are willing to get together, whether it be in person and video. I like this setup that we have now. I would have no objection to meeting with the screening committee in person, as I am right now, with them spread apart to a social distance that's acceptable in this room, and just the screening committee and the board next Monday afternoon, if that's feasible. But I don't know that that's feasible based upon what the schedules are of everybody else involved. I'm just saying we need to get a date. Hello?
I don't know if Tracy was.
It's just if I understood right, it's just kind of a formality.
Correct.
Right. So it will
So
be
for
even
the
if there was
board-
no COVID-19,
For
it
the
would be a
board,
short.
for the board,
For the
but
board, the board comes and they basically give a charge to the screening committee, tell them their expectations, go over, privacy issues, kind of give direction to the screening committee, and then the board excuses themselves.
Okay.
But
So-
Mr. Sutton's job during
But
that
Mr.
first meeting was to give him a bunch of paperwork,
Right.
directions, on backgrounding and a lot of other things. And again, we're not sure what his schedule is.
Right.
So it's hard for us
So,
to say we're gonna
what-
do this or set this meeting.
If members of the board are, if everyone's available next Monday, we can tentatively set it for Monday, and we can reach out to Quinn, tonight, tomorrow. If that doesn't work, we can have some further discussions about, setting it on an alternative date.
Can you make that
Do we
suggestion?
have to be in a meeting to make the next date that we set then?
No.
Okay,
So we can, because there are protocols for calling a meeting, but the board chair can call a meeting at any time, or a number of board members can make a request for a board meeting. So if the need arises, we can call a special meeting. We just need, 24 hours notice, and we'll be okay.
Morgana, you were gonna comment?
Suggest that if Monday is the night that seems to work for everyone, you could go with the 30th and then just ask Beth. The backup could be the 13th if you all were leaving spring break out of the mix right now. And that way, if some of the screening committee said, no, I can't do the 30th, then she could go ahead and say, how about the 13th? Or maybe you could just say, find the next Monday. Or something like
I just
that.
threw a Monday out there. I'm just, I think we want to get this process moving. And it's going to be dependent upon Mr. Sutton's schedule, because he has other districts that he's working
Right.
with.
And and obviously things can have changed from when we last spoke. He seemed to indicate, or my takeaway from our conversation was that some of the other districts he was working with were pushing their schedule back significantly.
Mhm.
So I don't know that they will be meeting in the next week or so.
Well,
But
I'll say
I will
this.
double check.
I'll trust your judgment if
Okay.
you could contact him,
I sure will.
understand his schedule, and just make a recommendation that, or a suggestion to Morgana as well as Lisa, hey, this would be the best time for the meeting, and let's have it.
Okay, let's do it.
Is that all right with you folks? Thank you. Any other comments? You need to shave.
I don't know if I missed something, but does it have to be on a Monday?
No,
Okay.
no,
All right.
that's the comment
So
I
if
made
it's,
to
if it
Beth.
can't be next Monday, it can be next Tuesday, Wednesday.
Would you
Thursday.
prefer it not to be a
Anytime that
Monday?
Beth comes up with a direction based upon Sutton's schedule, because, again, we don't know what it is. I just threw Monday out there because it's Monday.
Right, and if it's easier for you all to do it on a day besides Monday, that's fine too.
I'm retired.
I'm working from home. So takes me 12 minutes to get from Evansville to here, so I'm fine now.
As long as traffic's slow. So we know what we're doing. Thank you, Beth. I think that moves to item number 7, doesn't it? Where you at, Tracy?
well, I was still trying to hear if you set the meeting on the 30th.
No, we've not set a meeting. What we've done is ask Beth to get with Mr. Sutton as well as the screening committee and set up a time that may be convenient for him, because his schedule was pretty tight when we were
Yeah,
here
'cause he has-
discussing.
Right?
I'm sorry?
He has multiple districts.
Yes, yes, he does. So she's going to check with him, check with the screening committee, and then come back to Morgana and say, this is the best time, and then we'll get with the other board members and see when we can get together. Doesn't necessarily
Okay.
have to be on Monday either, Wes.
Okay. Well, with that being said, I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Oh, I have a motion from Ms. Williams that we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Second by Mr. Haynes. All those in favor, you can't reject it. Aye.
Ah,
Thank you. Meeting
I
adjourned.
thought I was gonna have to second that too, Wes. Thanks, guys.